My boyfriend comes from a wealthy family. In a moment of passion, he suddenly asked me, "Who do you love the most?" I hesitated for a second, then patted his head and replied, "Will you always be rich?" Chapter 1. I'm Roma, an orphan. I only grew up thanks to the orphanage that took me in. I've eaten stale steamed buns from the trash, drunk from icy spring water in the middle of winter, and worn shirts patched 18 times. At my worst, I went 3 months without bathing or washing my hair. The orphanage that raised me didn't have much funding. We survived solely because Mama Gloria ran around day and night to scrape together donations. So in my eyes, money ranks even higher than life itself, even though we struggled to have enough to eat every day. Mama Gloria insisted on sending us to school, even if it meant collecting garbage to afford it. She always said, "Only knowledge can change your fate." I believed her with all my heart, even when I had to live off a rock-hard bun and boiled water for an entire week. I never thought about dropping out. Since elementary school, I juggled studying while constantly brainstorming ways to make money. Other kids at 7 or 8 had no sense of money. They spent it recklessly. So I offered to do their homework. 3 yuan for 1 subject. 8 yuan for 3. Bring me a new client and I'd throw in a free subject. At first, some kids were suspicious, afraid the teachers would find out. So I gave a chubby boy an ice pop to put on an act in class. Not only did I write their homework, I mimicked their handwriting. The teacher never noticed. Soon, I got my first real client, a spoiled little rich boy who paid up front for a full week. After that, more and more came to me. I started getting overwhelmed. That's when I got a brilliant idea. Outsource. I hired other classmates to do the writing, acted as the middleman, and took half of their profits. Soon, my business spread across the entire school. I didn't even worry about being ratted out. After all, if someone reported me, the whole school's homework empire would collapse. In middle school, I used my connections to expand, not just homework help, but errand services too. Thanks to these side hustles, I could scrape together enough for school fees, even in high school, with all the heavy coursework. My hunger to earn never stopped. Teenagers in puberty always fall in love, and I had a knack for writing, so I started offering custom love letters, priced from 30 to 80 yuan. Eventually, I became a full-service matchmaker, writing, delivering, coaching, everything included. Some people looked down on me, thinking I was obsessed with money. And of course, schools are hotbeds for cliques and bullying. I was no exception, got ostracized too. But to me, they weren't classmates. They were customers. Even the bullies would often look for backup when picking fights. They were short on people, so I offered my fists for 10 yuan a fight. And since I feared nothing, I was MVP every time. Eventually, my reputation spread. Wherever there was a fight, I was there. Today I'd be on one side. Tomorrow I might be on the other. After that, no one dared isolate me again. In college, I treated every 3 hours like they were worth 8. From the moment school started, I made a name for myself with matchmaking, errands, and all sorts of side jobs, while others stressed about grades. I aced my classes and turned a profit. Chapter 2. Even though I was running around every day doing part-time gigs, I still managed to find time to date Bruno. And Bruno? He was loaded. How rich, you ask? The tallest experimental building on a university's campus, plus the state-of-the-art equipment inside, was all donated by Bruno's family. Bruno was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Since freshman year, he's never been without a girlfriend. He's famous for grand, high-profile pursuits followed by quick breakups. Still, girls lined up for him, because everyone at a university knew Bruno was generous with every girlfriend. If he was in a good mood, it wasn't unheard of for him to gift a whole apartment. So, how did someone like him end up dating someone like me, basically from a different planet? I've got to thank my roommate, Elise, for that. Bruno had been chasing Elise since our first year. She turned him down, publicly and gracefully, multiple times. Elise was also a pampered little princess. There was no way she'd fall for a flashy playboy like Bruno. Still, Bruno tried again every semester, only to be brutally rejected each time. In the second semester of junior year, Bruno pulled another grand stunt beneath the girls' dorm, trying to woo Elise again. Elise ignored him completely. I happened to be returning from my part-time job off campus when Bruno, quick as lightning, stepped in front of me. To get closer to Elise, Bruno had tried cozying up to her roommates before. Clearly, that didn't get him far. He blocked my path and shoved a fancy box of chocolates into my arms. Hey, can you give these chocolates and this bouquet to Elise for me? I jumped back like it was a bomb. Carefully, I returned the box, worth thousands, back into his arms. God forbid I damaged them, my half-month living expenses would go down the drain. That's a serious request. My dude, running errands is $10. Ghostwriting love letters starts at 30 to 60. Before I even finished, Bruno cut me off, already annoyed. Fine, I'll give you 200. Just get the stuff to Elise. 200? I instantly whipped out my WeChat QR code and became polite as could be. Yes. Young master, I promise you the finest service money can buy. Money in, task on. I scooped up the vibrant bouquet and the mountain of luxury snacks, then sprinted up to the 5th floor. Bursting into the dorm, I presented the goods with flair. Elise, these are from Bruno. He's been waiting downstairs for 3 hours just to catch a glimpse of you. He knew you didn't want to see him, so he humbly asked me to deliver these instead. His sincerity is written across the heavens. 200 yuan doesn't come easy, okay? I poured all my persuasion skills into hyping Bruno up for 3 straight minutes. He practically sounded like the last perfect man on earth. Elise barely looked up from her laptop. Only after I finished did she glance at me. Roma, right? Thanks for bringing them. Could you do me another favor and toss all this into the trash? My smile froze. Yup, stone, cold, rejection. I've played matchmaker for 4 or 5 years now, but I've never seen anyone take a confession so calmly. Oh, and the snacks, you can keep them. Share them with the others. Will do. Sure. Her tone was a bit dismissive, but who cares? That box of snacks was worth 10,000 yuan. That's a win in my book. After sharing some with the girls, I posted the rest online for resale. Within the hour, I made another nice little profit. Before bed, I even clasped my hands in front of me and bowed toward Bruno's direction. What can I say? This young master was basically my god of wealth. He handed me thousands of yuan for free that night. Chapter 3. The next day, I was working part-time at a bubble tea shop when Bruno stormed in and yanked me outside. Sure, he was my personal god of fortune, but that didn't mean I'd let him manhandle me. I used all my strength to shake him off. Bruno frowned and confronted me coldly. Did you say something to Elise yesterday that you weren't supposed to? Otherwise, why is she still so cold to me today? In my head, I wanted to shout. Have you forgotten you go through 800 girlfriends a month? And you have the nerve to question me? But he's a big client, so I switched gears quickly and put on a smile. No way. I've been doing this kind of matchmaking for 5 or 6 years, never made a mistake. And since you're seriously trying to win her over, I'll be honest with you, your approach needs some serious work. Bruno looked intrigued and crossed his arms. Go on. I straightened my posture and got into pitch mode. Based on my years of matchmaking experience, you need a personalized pursuit plan. I'll create a strategy tailored to Elisa's personality, emotional history, background, the whole package. Bruno lit up like a rich fool in a costume drama. His eyes sparkled as he pulled out his phone and transferred money to me on the spot. All right then, help me win Elise. I stared at my phone. 10,000 yuan. My eyes went wide as saucers. I grabbed Bruno's hand, eyes shining. Thank you. Thank you. I'll make it happen. As soon as my shift ended, I ran straight back to the dorm and threw myself into crafting Bruno's ultimate love plan. I stayed up all night, and just before dawn, I handed Bruno a 50-page PowerPoint presentation, a carefully analyzed, step-by-step guide on how to win Elisa's heart. I was confident if Bruno followed my plan, it was a guaranteed success. A week later, Bruno showed up again, soaked from head to toe and fuming. He slammed the PPT down and demanded a refund. Your plan sucks. It doesn't work. Turns out, the campus gossip boards were full of new posts. Rich boy's passion rejected, gets drenched in cold water. And yes, it was literal cold water. Elise had dumped a bucket of icy water on him from her window. I had written a year-long pursuit plan, and this clown blitzed through the whole thing in under a week. Then came back to tell me it didn't work. I glanced at the 10,000 yuan. Deep breath. I'll endure. I smiled gently. How about this time? I'll guide you step by step. Bruno waved me off. Annoyed. Forget it. I've pampered her long enough. You think Bruno, can't get another girlfriend? Then he pointed at me. You'll be my girlfriend instead. He muttered in frustration. You're supposed to find me a girlfriend, right? You never said who. Why should I waste my time getting humiliated by Elise? I was silent. My 50-page, all-nighter presentation, down the drain. Then my phone buzzed. Bruno had just transferred another 10,000 yuan. I instantly plastered on a smile. Got it, boss. Whatever you say. Bruno groaned and covered his face. Stop smiling like such a bootlicker. I immediately hid my teeth. Whatever the money bag says, goes. Chapter 4. I figured Bruno was dating me just to annoy Elise. He'd been humiliated. So naturally. He went for someone completely opposite of her. Someone like me. Even the school forums had picked up the gossip. Bruno's latest girlfriend wasn't another glamorous campus goddess, but a nobody, an academic nerd with zero presence. Elisa's roommate. People discussed whether our breakup would take 3 days or 4, maybe even less. I didn't take it seriously. I'd accepted the 20,000 yuan he transferred and knew my role. Just a decorative prop. Totally useless. So I kept doing what I always did. Studying, working part-time, chasing every cent like usual. But Bruno, maybe he was truly mad at Elise. I'd never seen him so clingy with his past girlfriends. Now, with me, he wouldn't let up. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, Bruno would call me to bring him breakfast. I refused. He didn't say anything. He sent me 200 yuan. I immediately got up, washed my face, got dressed, and ran to the cafeteria. This wasn't about the money. Okay, it was about the money, but also, I loved bringing breakfast to my boyfriend, and that was just the start. Bruno discovered that if he transferred money, I would do anything, happily, immediately. Want me to accompany you to class? 100 yuan an hour. Want me to eat with you at a restaurant? 100 yuan per meal. Want me to hand you water after basketball? 100 yuan per game. At this point, you didn't even need to eavesdrop. The sound of money hitting my Alipay echoed everywhere around Bruno and me. Dear God, Bruno wasn't just a rich heir. He was a literal 21st century money-blessing Buddha. At one point, I even considered organizing a private candlelit dinner for him and Elise. If the price was right, I never hid my love for money. So it wasn't surprising that Elise would sometimes stare at me, watching me gleefully accept payments to meet up with Bruno, clearly wanting to say something, then stopping herself. And sure enough, the school forums started calling me a gold digger. I didn't deny it. In fact, I even liked some of the posts. Bruno never complained. So why were these nosy online strangers losing their minds? And really, the rumors didn't affect me at all. Bruno's generosity? Still going strong. At the end of the week, I quietly counted my earnings. Bruno's charity for just 7 days was enough for a down payment on an apartment in a city, but based on his dating history at a university. As soon as there were rumors or bad press, he'd break up. There was even a time he changed girlfriends once a week. So logically, this should have been the end. But Bruno didn't say a word about breaking up. Instead, at the start of week 2, he suddenly said he was taking me to a party with his inner circle. This was unexpected. Bruno had always treated girlfriends like disposable clothes. He never brought them to his world, his actual circle. The closer someone got, the harder it was to get rid of them later. So he avoided it. But then I saw Elise nearby and suddenly understood. Bruno and Elise were in the same social circle. And I, her polar opposite, was her roommate. Bringing me along? Perfect way to rile her pride. Maybe even make her feel threatened. Turns out, Bruno might be dumb and rich, but he's also a hopeless romantic. Chapter 5. Honestly, I was planning to say no to something this underhanded. But Bruno, on the phone, gritted his teeth and directly transferred 500 yuan to me. I looked at the latex gloves on my hands, soaked in soap foam, A whole night's cleaning shift barely earned me 60 yuan. Even a dog would shake its head. I yanked off the gloves and called Bruno like a queen. I'm in. To help Bruno save face, I put on the only halfway decent dress I owned. A simple, solid white one. Bruno looked me up and down, and for once gave a rare compliment. Rustic, but stylish. For 500 yuan. I clenched my fists and resisted the urge to slap him. Everyone at the party looked at me with curiosity and judgment. But I ignored it all. I gently hooked my arm through Bruno's and stood quietly beside him, playing my role as his decoration. Their conversation was the usual rich boy nonsense. Luxury cars, models, things way out of my league. So I focused on the food. Clearly, this group was loaded. The dishes were all exotic, luxurious. The kind of stuff my 5 yuan lunch budget had never seen. So, naturally, I made it my mission to eat everything expensive. Before long, I had cleaned out most of the food in front of me. That's when I spotted a plate of crayfish near Bruno's right hand. I discreetly spun the lazy Susan to bring the crayfish in front of me, and popped one straight into my mouth. Let me tell you, worth every cent of that 500 yuan a plate price. Spicy, juicy, amazing. I reached for a second one, but noticed several people staring at me with thinly veiled disdain. Even Bruno gave me a strange look. He reached out calmly, picked up a crayfish, and slowly demonstrated. One hand holding the head, the other the tail. A quick twist and the shell came off, revealing golden, tender shrimp inside. He placed it gently onto my plate. You're supposed to take the head off first. I didn't feel the least bit embarrassed about revealing. This was my first time eating crayfish. In fact, I stared at Bruno's hands intensely. No one knew this about me. I've got a thing for hands. Bruno chuckled. Fine, you just eat, I'll peel them for you. He flicked my nose playfully and grabbed another one to peel. I returned to eating calmly. Having grown up poor, I had nothing to hide. Oddly enough, everyone else started getting uncomfortable. Then, a girl strutted over, hips swaying, balancing a dainty plate of neatly peeled crayfish. Wow, Bruno, is this your new little girlfriend? She's quite innocent. She smiled sweetly but added, still, peeling shrimp is hardly something young Master Bruno should be doing. Sweetheart, maybe learn a thing or two. Oh great. Passive-aggressive shade served cold. Chapter 6. The private room wasn't small, but with so many people packed in tonight, it felt pretty cramped. Seeing that flirty girl strutting over, the space was about to get even tighter. I picked up the crayfish Bruno had just peeled for me, and sensibly scooted aside to make room. Everyone, including the girl, froze. I smiled awkwardly. Please, carry on. Don't let me kill the vibe. Bruno had only asked me to attend the party. Never said I had to sit beside him the whole time. I was full anyway. Great chance to sneak away and bounce. Then came the sound I love most in this world. Alipay incoming, 500 yuan. Across the table, Bruno clenched his jaw. Get back here. New task? Got it, boss. I grabbed my crayfish and hustled right back to my seat. As I passed the girl, I took the plate of crayfish from her hands, and smiled sweetly. Thanks, sis. You're gorgeous and kind. You knew it was my first time eating crayfish, and even peeled a whole plate for me. You're seriously the nicest. The girl looked completely baffled and slinked back to her seat. I ignored Bruno's frosty glare, which had now thawed just a bit, abandoning my quiet, introverted act. I turned into a warm and caring girlfriend of the year. From a plate of poached fish I'd already picked clean, I scraped together a piece of meat and dropped it on Bruno's plate. Look at you, chatting away and barely touching your food. Then I poured hot tea for everyone at the table. You've been talking non-stop. Must be thirsty, right? Pulled out a tissue and handed it to Bruno. Don't just sit there, wipe your hands and eat before it gets cold. Bruno's face softened visibly. He took the tissue from me and slowly wiped between his fingers, inch by inch, before finally picking up his chopsticks. With a smug little grin, he muttered, "She's totally into me. What can I say?" A few others chimed in politely, and no one brought up the earlier awkward moment. Thanks to me, Bruno's reputation was fully salvaged. After the meal, we left together. Ahem, not bad tonight. Bruno muttered awkwardly, trying to praise me. I blinked. Wasn't that just part of the job? He pays, I deliver. Then Bruno extended his left hand to hold mine. Come on, I'll take you home. But just as his hand reached out, I quickly raised my right wrist. Bruno grabbed at the air, empty. He pulled out his phone, ready to send me money again. But I stopped him. I pointed at the time on my watch, 7:30 p.m. I've got a tutoring gig at 8. Gotta run. I spotted a shared bike nearby, waved goodbye, and took off, leaving Bruno standing there, holding his Land Rover keys, totally confused. Wait. I could have driven you, though, but Roma runs on hustle, not horsepower. Chapter 7. The posts about me on the campus forum weren't dying down. In fact, they were increasing. I didn't care. One day, Elise pulled me aside privately. She hesitated for a while, then gently tried to persuade me. Roma, you don't understand the dirty stuff that goes on in this circle. Guys like Bruno will never truly love you. This won't end well if you keep going. I could tell she was sincere, so I gave her the truth. Don't worry, I know this relationship is mixed with pretense and money, but I don't mind. Maybe I'll fall for Bruno for a moment, but I'll never love him forever. The only thing I'll always love is money. And to me, money matters more than false affection. From that moment on, Elise looked at me with a different kind of respect. I figured maybe she'd learned about my background. Bruno and I had been dating for about half a month. One day after a tutoring session, I was heading back to campus, when it suddenly started pouring. I lifted my backpack over my head and got ready to run, when a black umbrella appeared above me out of nowhere. I looked up. Bruno's cheeks were flushed, and his shoulders were soaked. Good thing I caught you. He took my backpack, slung it over his own shoulder, and walked me back toward campus under the umbrella. I grabbed his arm and touched his forehead, burning hot. I didn't say a word, just dragged him to the nearest pharmacy, bought fever meds, and tried to get him to go home and rest. But Bruno, clearly out of it, leaned heavily against me. Roma, take me to my place. By home, he meant the villa near campus he bought. But I always had a rule, no over-involvement. I was about to say no. Then I looked up, saw the mist in his eyes. The way he was still holding the umbrella over me despite his fever. I clenched my back teeth, and helped him to the villa. Luckily, I'd done plenty of physical labor growing up, so dragging Bruno to bed wasn't an issue. I went to make some hot tea, and get him to take his medicine, but out of nowhere, Bruno flipped around and pinned me to the bed. His feverish breath tickled my neck. His long eyelashes brushed against my skin like a tiny broom. My heart skipped. Roma, you don't even like me, do you? You're such a player, he mumbled deliriously. I'm rich and handsome, there's no way you're not into me. I calmed my pounding heart, and tapped his face. Are you going to stay rich forever? Bruno went quiet. Then yeah, I kinda like you. Bruno pushed himself up, then flicked me on the forehead. You're so obsessed with money. It's scary. A brief flash of clarity, and then he collapsed on top of me again. I rolled him off and tucked him in, just as I was about to leave. Bruno grabbed my wrist again. Don't go. I'll transfer money. I hadn't even planned on leaving. But I didn't stop him from grabbing his phone either. When the transfer sound came through, Bruno finally relaxed and fell asleep. I sighed, tucked him in again. That's when I noticed his phone screen was still on. A WeChat chat window. Elise, are you really going to keep dating Roma? Bruno's reply came fast. None of your damn business. Then, less than 30 minutes later, he followed up with, are you jealous? Chapter 8. The phone screen went dark, and I rubbed my sore arms. Carrying Bruno just now had tired me out a little. When he wakes up tomorrow, I should probably remind him to transfer a bit more money to me. I hadn't planned on saying it, to be honest. I do love money, but that doesn't mean I don't have a heart. When Bruno came to find me in the rain, burning with fever, my heart skipped a beat. When he, half conscious, asked me if I liked him, I couldn't help but feel a flutter. But the moment I saw his chat history with Elise, the tiny spark in my chest was instantly extinguished. Same old rule. Yes, I might feel something, but only for a moment, and never for anyone but money. I've always believed in love. I used to dream about the ugly duckling turning into a swan, or Cinderella leaving behind a glass slipper. But unfortunately, I'm better suited to chasing wealth than dreams. I realized this early on, and the years have only confirmed it. Back in high school, I once bravely chased after love, a broke straight-A student like me. I too had a crush on a clean-cut top student in a white shirt. I was always ranked number 1, and all the teachers knew me by name. Naturally, I also knew the eternal number 2, who was always trailing behind me. He was nothing like me. His white shirt was always spotless. His tone always polished and mannered. His clothes well-fitted. His smile gentle and composed. I couldn't help but fall for him. I noticed the expensive watch that peeked out from his sleeve, and the sneakers that probably cost more than a year of my tuition. But I still wanted to try. The exchanged glances during tutoring. The identical worksheets we did in the teacher's office. The post-exam answer checking, all made me foolishly believe that maybe he felt the same. So, 3 months before the college entrance exam, at a party, I made up my mind. I spent 200 yuan on a pure white dress, and another 50 on a bouquet of nice flowers. I wanted to confess, but fate had other plans. Before I even entered the private room, I heard his voice. His tone was as gentle as ever, but his words chilled me to the bone. Roma? That study freak who's been wearing 9 yuan shoes for 3 years? Please. I just wanted to see if the top student liked me enough to throw away her chance to climb the ladder. I tried to smile. I really did. But I gave up. Back then, I would have laughed it off. Spun around and sold the flowers one by one to the boys inside at high prices. After all, they were my customers. But this time, I just wanted to throw those flowers straight in the trash. Even if that bouquet cost me a whole month's living expenses. The white dress ended up buried at the bottom of my suitcase, only to be pulled out again for that event with Bruno. And from that moment, I buried the feelings I should never have had. My position remained unshaken. My little side hustle didn't look like much, but it flourished. My grades still crushed his, and he remained my eternal number 2. You see, falling for someone is easy, but giving up on that feeling? Even easier, because there's no point in giving up glory, whether it's money or success, for a kind of love that won't ever pay off. Chapter 9. After giving Bruno the fever medicine, I spent the night on his living room couch. The next morning, when Bruno woke up and saw me sitting up from the sofa, I didn't bother to hide anything. I shook my phone at him. Don't forget to pay me for all the trouble. Without waiting for a reply, I picked up some breakfast and headed back to campus. By the time I got to the dorm, I'd received a 200 yuan transfer from Bruno. The school sports meet was just around the corner, and I was running around non-stop getting inventory ready. It's the biggest money-making event of the year for me. Bruno, with nothing better to do, came along to the field and hung around my stall. I didn't turn him away. After all, just having Bruno stand there attracted flocks of fangirls who'd stop by to buy a bouquet or some random trinket. But of course, the best-selling item was still glucose water. Seeing me overwhelmed, Bruno picked up some bottles and started helping me sell. Suddenly, there was a commotion nearby. Before I even reacted, Bruno had already pushed through the crowd. By the time I caught up, all I saw was Bruno carrying Elise, dressed in a princess-style dress, rushing toward the infirmary. Told you, Bruno never really got over Elise. This relationship? Just for show. How embarrassing. His current girlfriend standing right here. Shoo. Quiet down. She can hear you. Ignoring the glances and whispers around me, I put on my signature smile and held up the glucose water. Come take a look. Glucose. Mineral water. Drinks. Peanuts. Sunflower seeds. Cookies. And all kinds of cute little things. The event wasn't over, and once the gossip wore off, the crowd dispersed. Plenty of people came over to shop, and I quickly returned to the stall. As for Bruno, of course he never came back. I only found out the details through gossip on the field. Turns out Elise was the lead in our college's parade formation. Since our class was at the end, she had to stand the longest and ended up fainting from anemia. Hearing that did stir something in me. Mostly because Bruno took one of my glucose waters without paying. That evening, Bruno showed up at my stall to explain. He said he only helped Elise because she collapsed nearby and he happened to be close. I smiled and cut him off, saying he hadn't paid me. Bruno rolled his eyes like they were about to fall out of his skull. I waved him off. Forget it, for Elise's sake. This one's on the house. Bruno was stunned. He couldn't believe a penny pincher like me would let something go. I just focused on packing up my stall and didn't say a word. Over the few days of the sports meet, after deducting costs, I made just over 500 yuan. Not a fortune, but better than nothing. To give students a break, the school gave us a 3-day vacation after the event. Our teacher decided to take the class on a trip to a scenic mountain village for creative inspiration. When Bruno heard about it, he immediately pulled me aside and asked if students from other classes could join. I told him the truth. Yes, they could. Bruno insisted I sign him up, maybe realizing he was being too eager. He even explained himself. Roma, I only signed up so I could be with you. This way we can spend the whole break together. I gave him a half-hearted reply. Nice, that's great. But Bruno never asked me if I was actually going. We were already in the second half of our junior year, and classes were practically over. To me, these extracurricular trips were unnecessary. Besides, I already had plans for the break. A job interview at Tianyu Company. Chapter 10. Tianyu is a major company in the industry, so I didn't want to lose points on my appearance. I bought a 200 yuan blazer set online, along with a pair of black heels. On the day of the interview, I put on light makeup and got everything in order before heading out early. The interview was scheduled for 10 a.m. But to be safe, I wanted to arrive in advance. And good thing I did. After squeezing into a crowded subway, I suddenly realized that the cheap new heels I bought were fading. Cheap shoes really do live up to their reputation. At the cafe downstairs from the company, I noticed a number of professionals in suits and business attire. A thought struck me. I walked over to a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses, tapping away seriously on a laptop. In a low voice, I asked, "Excuse me, sir, do you happen to have a black pen?" The man glanced up at me casually. I do. Sensing he was waiting for an explanation, I hurried to clarify. It's just, I'm here for an interview, and I bought these heels especially for today, but I just noticed they're fading. So, I pointed at the discolored parts. The man glanced over, then handed me the pen. I thanked him immediately and took it. The pen was sleek and heavy in my hand. You could tell it belonged to someone with money. I turned around, planning to find a seat to discreetly touch up the shoes. But in just 3 minutes, the cafe had completely filled up. Feeling awkward, I pointed to the only empty seat right across from the man. Would it be all right if I sat here? He nodded nonchalantly. I breathed a sigh of relief and sat down quickly. It wasn't that he was rude or arrogant, far from it. He was perfectly polite, just had a naturally cold, distant aura. Like someone who gave off a don't get too close vibe. Without hesitation, I bent under the table and started coloring in the shoes. Once they looked as good as new, I sat up again. Across from me, the man had closed his laptop and was idly tapping the table with his fingers, apparently waiting for me. I hurriedly returned the pen. Sorry for taking your time, and thank you again for the pen. I thought he was in a rush, but he didn't leave after taking it back. The silence was a little tense, so I forced myself to order an overpriced coffee, and took small sips to pass the time. I glanced at him a few times, only to get caught. He smiled faintly. Are you a college student? A bit on guard. I nodded. Yes. Junior year, not many classes left. So I'm starting to look for internships. He raised his eyebrows. Tianyu? Looks like he worked there too. That put me at ease, and I relaxed a bit. Exactly. I saved up and bought this whole outfit just for the interview. Didn't expect the shoes to be so cheap. Though, the man chuckled softly, without a hint of mockery or judgment. At least you're honest. I instantly thought he had good manners, since I tend to be chatty, and there was still time before my interview. I struck up a conversation. We chatted about shoes, then pens, then work, and eventually about Tianyu. Turned out, despite his cold appearance, he was actually kind of interesting. He even had a sense of humor, chiming in when I brought up funny gossip. Eventually, it was time for the interview. and I said goodbye to him. After my number was called, I entered the meeting room, bowed, and introduced myself before sitting down. When I looked up, the man from the cafe was sitting at the center of the panel. Lucas, CEO of Tianyu. Suddenly, my heels started to pinch. Had I known he was the CEO of Tianyu, I would have rather walked in with faded shoes than asked to borrow his pen. This was so awkward. Chapter 11. Even though I nailed the entire interview like a pro, I couldn't help but worry whether Lucas would think I borrowed his pen on purpose to get close to him and then eliminate me because of it. After stressing through lunch, I decided to shelve that anxiety for now. I had a part-time job to get to in the afternoon. If I didn't get this job, I'd move on to the next. Nothing could stop my drive to make money. When the break ended, I heard that the teacher-led trip to the countryside had been a mess. 2.5 days of rain out of 3, and they almost got caught in a flood. Luckily, they made it back safely, but when I returned, I was informed that Bruno and Elise were now a couple. Elise messaged me on WeChat to apologize. I just replied with a meme that said, "No big deal." Then I saw the trending topic on Weibo. Hashtag the Bruno and Elise alliance, family power couple set to take over together hashtag. Bruno invited me to meet and apologize. I figured he just wanted to break things off in person. But let's be honest, what we had wasn't even a real relationship. So a formal breakup felt unnecessary. I made up a part-time work excuse and turned him down. He didn't insist. Instead, he transferred me 20,000 yuan on Alipay. I literally jumped 3 feet into the air when I saw the amount. So what if I got dumped and cheated on? Nothing a stack of cash can't fix. And to top it off, I passed the interview. Meanwhile, the campus forums were flooded with envy. Bruno was spoiling Elise like crazy. Bags today, cars tomorrow, a house the day after. Everyone drooled with jealousy, then turned around and mocked me for being forgettable. I didn't care one bit. I'd already saved up nearly 100,000 yuan through hard work. It wasn't a fortune, but I was damn proud of it. I focused on my internship, soaking up knowledge, juggling side jobs. Occasionally, I'd see Bruno and a grumpy-faced Elise walking around campus. I just nodded politely and went on my way. I was so busy I barely touched the ground. And that's when I realized, what you learn in college has very little to do with what the real world demands. Every day was a chaotic mix of overtime and cramming. Ironically, I often bumped into Lucas during late-night overtime. After learning he was the CEO, I wisely chose to keep a respectful distance. Whenever I saw him, I bowed my head and greeted him formally. But after seeing each other so many times, a bit of casual banter naturally crept in. That's when I discovered Lucas, the almighty CEO, worked later than anyone else every single day. And lately, he'd even started competing with me, trying to stay later than I did. I mean, seriously? You're the CEO. What do you have to prove to an intern making 3,000 yuan a month? That said, I had to admit, Lucas was surprisingly easygoing and fun in private. So, I started asking him questions when I didn't understand something. Like, how do you pick the right product among a pile of mediocre ones? Or, should cross-border business be considered when doing e-commerce in rural areas? Lucas would raise an eyebrow but never pried. He always gave me thoughtful, serious answers. Thanks to those little tutoring sessions during overtime, I could now handle small projects solo without a hitch. Eventually, I told him why I cared so much about rural e-commerce. Because of Mama Gloria, the orphanage, and the home I came from buried in poverty for decades. I understood better than anyone that knowledge can change fate. Not just mine, but the fate of all those kids back there. Like Mama Gloria once did, I wanted to help them break free and learn. To give them the tools to change their lives. So when the company launched a rural development program, in support of a government initiative, I signed up. Chapter 12. Because of this rural project, my contact with Lucas became more and more frequent. After all, I was about to go back to my hometown to launch real e-commerce from scratch. Honestly, I was a little nervous. Fortunately, Lucas never minded me bothering him. Every time I asked for help, he responded without hesitation. Sometimes, I even felt a little embarrassed. Before heading to the countryside, I decided to treat Lucas to a meal to thank him for all the support he'd given me since I joined the company. We met at a simple hot pot restaurant. It wasn't the first time I'd treated him to dinner. Lucas knew perfectly well I wasn't loaded, and he never minded casual food. So we always ended up at a hot pot spot. The conversation flowed naturally. Lucas said the rural development project was an experimental move for the company. He told me that anytime I needed something, I could come to him, he'd always have my back. I grinned from ear to ear. A personal promise from the CEO himself. Talk about reassurance. I raised my glass to toast him. But suddenly a large hand grabbed my wrist and stopped me mid-motion. Bruno. I hadn't seen him in a while, and he looked furious. Roma, was the money I gave you not enough? I stared at him, confused. Excuse me? He made it sound like he was paying to keep me. Lucas stood up and pried Bruno's hand off me. His tall frame blocked me protectively, and his voice turned icy. Please show some respect. Bruno looked flustered, but then his tone softened into a plea. Roma, why did you delete me? Can't you add me back? I like you. Can't we start over? I actually laughed out loud. Bruno, spare me the tragic lover act. I'd heard not long ago that Bruno and Elise broke up. The engagement never happened. Apparently, Elise had never really liked Bruno's flashy playboy ways. Even with the family pressure, she still ended things. Honestly, I respected her for that. But I never imagined Bruno, that clown, would still be trying to mess with me. Come on, I said flatly. There were no real feelings between us. You paid. I helped. That was a transaction. Clean and done. We owe each other nothing. I grabbed Lucas and walked off without looking back. Why did Lucas always have to witness these embarrassing scenes? If we didn't leave right away, who knows what he'd start thinking of me? But Lucas didn't seem to mind. If anything like this happens again, he said, call me, I'll back you up. I burst out laughing. Not gonna ask if I owe him money or something? He chased me like I stole his dog. You're not that kind of person. Just one casual line from Lucas, and it sent ripples through my chest. You're not that kind of person. My whole life, I'd been covered in the stench of money. No one ever asked what I'd been through. They just whispered behind my back. Look at her. Roma's just another gold digger. I never argued. Even Bruno, once he learned I loved money, simply threw cash at me and asked me to keep him company. No one had ever said to me, you're not like that. I don't know your story, but I believe in you. As we were about to part, Lucas pointed to my wrist, reminding me gently to apply the medicine. Chapter 13. Later on, Bruno made a whole scene at my company, dramatically claiming he wanted to win me back. But before he could even get close to me, Lucas made a single call to security and had him escorted out. That settled it. I didn't get distracted again and focused fully on preparing for the rural project. By the end of June, I returned to my mountainous hometown. Gloria Mama heard I was back and cooked a feast. The old orphanage had long since been torn down. But she never stopped taking in children. Now she raises them in her own house, 13 little ones in total. I still send over more than half my earnings to Gloria Mama, though she always refuses to accept it. Thankfully, the kids are pretty sensible. They help her around the house, even collect recyclables. After lunch, Gloria Mama and I coaxed the children to nap. Once they were asleep, I headed to the village committee office. The moment they found out I was coming on behalf of a major company, the uncles in the committee had already done their best to get everything ready. I walked around to inspect everything. The live stream studio, the logistics and distribution center, everything was in place. There were also local college graduates and village officials, who had returned to help develop the area. I figured we could use more hands. So I had the committee post a call for local e-commerce talent. In less than half a day, 4 or 5 young faces showed up. Just like that, I planted my roots in my hometown, with government policy backing us and company support in tech and equipment. Our platform gained 400 to 500K followers in just 6 months, bringing in a steady stream of visitors to the village. When I returned to the company for a meeting, Lucas praised me like crazy in front of everyone. I was embarrassed out of my mind. I'd already told him many times, please don't only praise me. It makes the others uncomfortable. But Lucas just grinned smugly. What? My girlfriend's amazing. Of course I want to brag. Cue me turning bright red every single time. Oh, right. Lucas confessed to me when I was working on the third village project. We were both knee-deep in mud, harvesting lotus roots. He was about to take the root from my hand and toss it into a mesh bag, when he suddenly paused. Then, out of nowhere, he blurted out, "Roma, do you want to give it a try with me?" The shovel in my hand nearly slipped. Sure, I'd had feelings for Lucas for a while. He's powerful, attractive, and kind, but I didn't expect him to like me back. Lucas told me that from the moment he saw me, boldly using his pen to cover the scuffed part of my shoes. He found me fascinating and couldn't resist getting close. So it was a calculated move. Huh? I didn't respond. I focused on pulling out a particularly fat lotus root, scrubbing the dirt off and holding it up to the sunlight to inspect it. Lucas glanced over. No answer? I'll take that as a yes. Roma. His tone lifted, playful. As he kept working, I wiped my muddy hand on Lucas's clean cheek and handed him the root. Yellow skin, plump and stubby, premium quality. He smiled. Absolutely. I grinned. So yeah, I'm in. Looks like this partnership will be profitable too.